Deion Sanders recently said that Shedeur Sanders, his son, there are certain teams that he will not go to in the draft. And he said, quote, it's going to be an Eli, referencing Eli Manning when he was going to be drafted by the Chargers, I believe it was back in like the early 2000s. And his dad obviously played NFL for a million years. And they kind of intervened and let it be known that they were not interested in going to the Chargers. I'll start with Danny. Is this a good idea to put this out there this early?
No, absolutely not. I think it's a bad idea to put it out there anytime publicly. I mean, you could do it behind closed doors, let somebody else say it for you, or let the media report it if they happen to find out. But I think this puts an incredible amount of pressure on Shedeur. And I know he said Shiloh. I mean, it's kind of what he does. We're talking about Shedeur. And I think it's one thing to be in question of, is he going to be the top overall pick? And if he's not, let's say he's a top 10, top 15, are you going to hurt your chances of getting drafted to a team that might be able to pay you a lot of more money because you're putting this out there? And the other thing I'm always fascinated by with this, and this is the conversation that's happening right now, because RG3 came out and was like, yeah, way to go, kid. Of course he shouldn't. No one should. Caleb Williams shouldn't want to go to the Bears. Where do you want to go? Like, the teams that need quarterbacks are bad.
You should go to the Chiefs, Danny.
That's what I was going to suggest, that and call him out and be like, yeah, go. Everyone should want to go play for Andy Reid because he's the best. That's where you should try to play. The good teams have quarterbacks that they're happy with, unless you want to be a 3rd round pick and be a backup for a few years. Like, I want to know where you want to force your way to. Like, let's see what happens. And by the way, I think for Caleb Williams, they have maybe some of the best weapons and opportunity of any 1st round or number 1 overall pick that we've seen in the last decade. So, like, this whole conversation is really dumb, and it's starting to irritate me that people are saying, yay, player empowerment. Like, before you just say player empowerment, think about what you're saying and see if it makes any sense, because what's coming out of their mouths right now makes none.
I'll start first. RG3, you're an idiot for saying that. The Bears are 7-10. They have Keenan Allen and they have DJ Moore. What other quarterback is entering the NFL as the number 1 pick, joining a 7-10 team with 2 all-pro receivers on the roster? Go ahead and find the better situation. You just want him to go to Washington. As for Deion, I think Deion can do this. I think this can work. I don't know if I agree with his assessment that Shedeur will be a top 4 pick. But the quarterback class next year, based on how NFL teams feel about him right now, there's a chance he could be a top 4 pick. There's a chance he could be viewed as the top QB in the class. We'll see. There's a long time between now and then. But you look at the situations where this worked. He talked about pulling an Eli. Eli Manning was the son of an NFL quarterback. Eli Manning had a family that had money. Eli Manning was not in a position to where he had to do what he was told to get the contract. He could afford to sit out. He wasn't going to starve. John Elway back in the day did the same thing with the Colts. What did he do? He didn't have a football background, but he went and signed a contract with the New York Yankees and played baseball for a while. He wasn't going to starve until he got his way, so he held out. Shedeur could do the same thing. They've got money. He's not going to starve. If he wants to hold out and do this kind of thing to force his way to a more desirable situation, he can do it. The thing is, this is getting spun as player empowerment, when really this is just some players have more privilege than other players and can do this and get away with it. And if you can, I go for it if it's going to work. I think it can work for them if they really want to do it, though.
I think it's genius on Deion's part.
To say it this early?
Yes.
Yeah.
So check this out. Where do the better teams, the more desirable teams, pick in the draft?
Later.
Right. Do you believe that Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top 4 pick in the NFL draft?
No.
I don't either.
Probably not.
Not based on
I see where you're going.
So just based on how he played.
Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. He's not a top half of the 1st round type pick based on how he played in 2023. Now we'll see how he plays in 24. It's entirely possible he gets better. I mean, his pocket movement was definitely a problem at times. Sack to pressure ratio was poor, kind of the opposite of like a Riley Leonard or an Anthony Richardson. Deion's not a dummy. if he doesn't think Shedeur, like if he doesn't really believe what he's saying about Shedeur being a top 4 pick, lay the groundwork now for, hey, we're rigging this thing, man. We want to go to the team that fits us better. Because I do think there's a chance he could be in the first round. I don't think he's going to be a top 4 pick based on his age and abilities. I just kind of said it now, like, hey, this is where we wanted to go. You know,
do you think the Deion dream scenario is that the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins like what, a 2-year deal, something like that?
He got more,
Falcons,
but they could
yeah,
probably
but
get
it's
out of it.
basically a 2-year deal, and the Falcons have a good season under Cousins, and then they have a later first-round pick, and then the Falcons can draft Shedeur, and then still have Kirk and give Shedeur a year to, grow and learn the offense and blah, 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 whatever words you want to use for it. Do you think that's his dream scenario?
No. I think his dream scenario is that the Cowboys fall apart this season and that they fire Mike McCarthy. Dak Prescott's a bust, and then he goes coach-son combo. Jerry, bring us home. And Jerry Jones is maybe one of the ones who would actually do something
Jerry
like
would
that.
definitely do it.
I think that's the dream scenario for Deion. Like deep down in the heart of, and he could draft Shiloh and probably try to, because did he include Travis Hunter in this conversation? Did he say Travis? I would tell him too.
He said Shedeur and Travis in the top 4. And he said he said something about Shiloh, but like he didn't go as far as to say Shiloh is like a first round pick. I don't think.
Yeah, and I don't think he was talking about Travis forcing his way to a certain spot as much as he was talking about Shedeur. But Travis could literally be a top 4 pick. So,
yes,
he
could.
Like, who's going to get drafted higher, Shedeur or Travis Hunter?
I would bet on Travis right now. But the thing is, with the quarterback value, they get overdrafted every single year. So,
do teams ever wake up to that? Because we're starting to see the returns. Because we've probably about 4 or 5 years ago, all of a sudden there was this massive overdrafting of QBs. We're starting to see the returns on these risks that they're taking. Is it just no big deal that it's not that much money? A rookie deal is worth $25-30 million. Just like, or is it, or do you think we'll see a adjustment, or is it, just keep trying?
The first 4 picks in the draft this year could all be quarterbacks.
They probably will, but 2 of them are going to be busts and maybe 3.
Yes. Probably there's more likelihood all 4 of them will be busts than
it's
right,
so
because we keep
valuable
going back
team.
to the class with Trubisky, which was that Pickett. We keep going back to the Pickett class, which was bad because he's already been a bust. But go back to Justin Fields' class. Like, wasn't that Mac Jones? Like, there's already several quarterbacks in that one that aren't panning out the way that people thought they would. And like, we're starting to see multiple years of all these quarterbacks drafted in the first round, and they're not working. So just keep swinging for the fences.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because you don't need to, like, what's your actual like break even hit rate on taking your first round quarterback? The payoff is so damn good if you get one of these guys who plays as like a top 10 quarterback, and you get like the 2 years where he's still on that rookie deal before you have to renegotiate it. I mean, that's huge. If years 2 and 3 he's playing like a top 10 guy, you get to keep the rest of your roster. That's kind of what the Bears are trying to do right now with Caleb, because the roster is, I think, in many areas kind of win now. So it's not like you need to be hitting on these guys in the first round at an 80% clip. I mean, these are like big time lottery tickets that you're taking. And if you can go, 40 or 50% on them, like the payoff,
I just wonder,
the Bears have flubbed 2 first round quarterbacks in a row, like dramatically. And yet they're still set up in a great position.
I just am surprised that teams haven't adjusted somewhat, because I agree with the philosophy, like build a team, build a roster. If you hit it on that young quarterback, like Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, like he had a phenomenal roster around him on that rookie deal, 2nd round pick. I mean, Brock Purdy's kind of an outlier, but even like Will Levis with the Titans, they're trying to do it with him. And I don't think it's going to work, but if it does, like, isn't that kind of like, man, why are you wasting top picks in the draft when you could get a pretty good, because I don't think the gap is that big on some of these draft picks between the guy that's going to go in the first and the guy that's going to go early second. So why not just wait a little bit and get somebody who really can play with that top 10 pick?
I think there's multiple factors to it. I think we talked about, the rookie deal on a QB is just the most valuable thing you can have in the NFL. And also the QB is the most important position on the field. So teams are always desperate to get one when they need one. So you have to overdraft them. But at the same time, like, history suggests we call them busts if they don't become like Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. But if you look at the quarterbacks that have gone number one overall for the last 20 some odd years, they haven't all been superstars, but they've all typically been average NFL starters. So it's not like you don't get any value out of it. Now, after that, the hit rate becomes far less accurate because I think you can honestly argue, we talk about quarterback classes, like there's typically one guy in every class that you could feel pretty confident about it. At the very least, hey, you know what? He might not be a superstar, but he's going to be an NFL starter. And I think you typically see that guy go number one overall, and then teams take more swings with the picks after that. So I don't think it's going to change until the salary structure of the NFL changes. And I don't see any reason for the NFL to change the salary structure anytime soon.
Yeah, I think you just keep swinging it. Like what team recently has been screwed because they drafted quarterback poorly?
The Giants, but only because they kept
They
Daniel
paid him.
Jones. Yeah.
Well, the Bears.
Right. Like,
the
why
Bears,
is Philly maybe in trouble with Hurts?
But the Bears aren't paying Fields for the fifth-year option and extending him. They didn't pay
Right.
Trubisky the fifth-year option and extend them. Like, the mistake is committing big money to the guy who's clearly not going to be the guy, and that's what the Giants did.
If you
Although
pay him,
even sometimes teams, their problem is they're sticking with him because the Eagles paid Wentz too early. The Rams paid Goff too early, but they moved on from those after they realized it pretty quickly. And they might have paid Jalen Hurts too early. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with him after the season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess the Browns are the one. Although Watson had shown a lot of real high level ability, so it's flopping for them, and they are hurt because of that huge albatross of a contract. But
turns out missing an entire year of football because of your legal problems does not help you get better at playing football.
Who would have thunk it?